Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hello, and welcome to our 50th episode of the Learning to Glow podcast. This is such a big milestone for our show. I started this podcast in January of this year, and it has been such a wonderful experience. This is the last episode of 2023 and our 50th episode. So I wanted to highlight the top 5 most downloaded shows and the impact it has made for me personally. We've taken so many directions this year, from nutrition to fitness and alternative medicine. We've talked about breast implant illness. We've talked about human design, face reading, even money and financials. The common theme has been how we as women can continue to learn and grow and thrive in all areas of our life. So I recently went to an event and there was a lady giving numerology readings. I had no idea what that was, but of course they say what you need you'll find. And it was just such an interesting reading, something that I would never kind of seek out on my own. She told me that I was ruled by the sun. You can be ruled by like the sun or different planets. And I told her my podcast was called Learning to Glow. She said, of course it is. From the beginning, it's been my goal to bring guests who can help my listeners and myself learn different ways we can do that. And I'm open to anything. So it's fun bringing on such a wide variety of amazing experts. I've always been very open-minded, and I'm really willing to try anything in this space in health and wellness, but just outside of that as well, because there's so many fun things out there, and there's so many things that can help us, whether it's mentally or physically, with our health, whatever it might be. So today I wanted to highlight what episodes have been most downloaded and also impactful, not only for myself, but those of you who have sent me screenshots of your favorite episodes and voice memos. I've had people say, this is something that I needed today. Thank you so much. Like I've really enjoyed listening to how this podcast has helped you all. And that's what I'm here for. I love it. So we're going to start with episode number 2 from the very beginning, which is still on the chart for most downloaded. And it is with guest Courtney Fletcher. She's an acupuncturist. This episode was all about Chinese medicine, how it works and how it can help with such a wide variety of issues. And she also does cosmetic acupuncture as well. So we talked about that, how it can help with the skin in so many different ways, and her views on Botox. And this is a tricky topic. I know how popular Botox is. You know, I love to use my platform here not to judge, but to let people know more about certain topics, maybe something that they didn't know and they weren't aware of. And Courtney really did an amazing job of educating us on how it works and some possible risk factors. I say do whatever you want, but do your research and don't let people trying to sell you something do it all for you. And that goes for everything in life, especially when it comes to medical procedures and things that might have a risk factor. You always want to be informed. You always want to do your homework before just taking people's word for it. And most of the time, procedures are fine. You're going to be fine. But it's just good to know. And if you are living a life that maybe you have had chronic illness or maybe you've had some issues with your health, those type of people, and I'm in this category, honestly, we have to be a little bit more careful about what we put into our bodies, what we eat. We're affected easier. And my immune system can be affected easier. So there's just different things that I don't do because of that. So that is just like one thing that I like to mention without, trying to be judgy or, when people ask me, and people all the time, I get asked all the time, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I buy this treatment? Should I get this procedure? And I am happy to give those answers of what my personal opinion is, but you always have to be your own advocate when it comes to this type of thing. So just a side note about Courtney. She has a network of friends and fellow alternative medicine practitioners, and many of them have come on my show, especially in the beginning. She was so kind enough to say, hey, I went on this podcast. I had so much fun. And if you want to go on it, reach out to Jess. And they totally took a chance on some random person that they didn't know starting a podcast. And those amazing guests are some of my favorite episodes. So I'm really grateful to those guests and to Courtney. Casey Hill, who's also an acupuncturist, shared so much valuable information with us on our gut health. I loved that episode. Pilar, who is the founder of the Wellness Collective in Costa Mesa. She's an Ayurvedic practitioner, herbalist, massage therapist, and more. She's incredible. She was sharing all about women's health. That was such an amazing episode. And Christina King was on, who shared a very personal story about her breast implant illness, or BII, as they call it, and her story with that and how she suffered. And that was an amazing episode. Definitely, those are must listen. If you are new to our show and you haven't gone back, go back to some of our earlier episodes because they are filled with amazing information and some of my favorites. Our next episode it was a very popular topic and one of the top 5 downloaded episodes is our favorite nutritionist, Emily Brown. We talk nutrition, weight loss hurdles, and hormones on episode 10. I have had a few listeners that went to go and work with Emily after this episode aired because of how, she's amazing. And I did the same thing. I was like, why am I not working with Emily? I've had so many issues and I saw amazing results with her. I found out I had allergies that I didn't know about, food allergies, and I was able to give up coffee, which was something that was causing me problems. I don't think you understand how difficult that was for me, but definitely had some really great breakthroughs and a lot of knowledge gained because of Emily. The episode was so popular with her that we had to have her back. And we talked about mitochondrial health on her second visit to Learning to Glow, which is also kind of a hot topic at the moment. And she did such a great job of explaining that and why that is so foundational for our health. We also talked about the benefits of sunlight exposure. And if you've been listening to my show at all this year, you will know I have been slightly obsessed with this topic. And I love Emily's explanation of why she recommends getting it, why so many people are talking about it, and how to do it. And Emily is really great at not making you feel like you have to get really restrictive or be perfectionist when it comes to your healing and your wellness journey. So it's a great place to start with episode 10, and then she comes back on episode 32. By the way, I'm going to link all of these episodes in my show notes. So I will, every single thing I'm thinking, you don't have to worry about remembering. I have to hear Casey Hill for my gut health. I'll make sure to link all of this so it's easy for you. Our next episode is very special to me. It is with Katherine Metzelaar, who is an eating disorder dietitian. I had been doing my podcast for 34 weeks. This is episode 34 when I had Katherine on, and I wanted to get an expert in this field of eating disorders and someone who really knows her stuff as well as Katherine, because I feel a responsibility with this podcast to showcase all sides of wellness, because there can be, and there is, that other side of wellness, which it can be very toxic. It can be very restrictive, and you can really have the lines blurred when it comes to health and wellness and disordered eating and thinking. So I think that was something that I felt like a responsibility. Yes, I'm going to be talking about things that are going to help promote health and wellness, but I want to do it in a way that we maintain our healthy mindset and that we remember that health doesn't mean thin or, there's so many different aspects to wellness that could be considered toxic, and I don't want to contribute to that. So my favorite part of the episode with Katherine was when she walks us through what diet culture is. And I never heard it explained like this. And it just was such a mind-blowing explanation. And so many things clicked for me. And it's just fantastic. So it's great. I mean, for us as women, but also for our kids, just being armed with this type of knowledge is so powerful. Whether you've had an eating disorder, whether you've had a history with dieting, anything, this is an episode for everyone. This is such a great episode. This is number 34. Our next episode that I'm highlighting, and I think it's number 1 right now, most downloaded, is Anna Prezy, who was on our podcast talking about embracing authenticity. And she has a loyal following online. She is a content creator, and she shares really honestly and authentically with her audience. And she shared her story. I loved listening to it. And she grew up in a family they had elite athletes. They were, marathon runners, and they had a lot of expectations, and growing up in that type of way can lead to some issues. And she did end up struggling with an eating disorder, and she's come a long way. She's really a mental health advocate. She shares her struggles with everyone, and she cheers everyone on at the same time. She's great. So we talked about body acceptance and not positivity, because she was like, I'm not there yet. I'm not positive, but I have body acceptance, and that's okay. And so she has a big following online on social media. You can see her videos, and she is actually, I think by this point, she may be finished with her tour, but she went on tour. She's super funny. She's really hilarious, and has been able to really connect with so many people and help them as she's been helping herself. So that was such a great episode. She has a book coming out in the new year, and she's actually coming back on the podcast. So make sure you tune in for that. And lastly, our last episode to highlight is with Ginny of 1000 Hours Outside. This has made such a personal impact on me. After following her for years on Instagram, it was a real treat for me to have her on my podcast. And when I first found her, my kids were younger, and we did spend more time outside. We were at the park. And so we decided to do this. I decided to do a challenge. Her challenge is 1000 Hours Outside Challenge. And you can go to her website, and she has free trackers, and you can track how many hours a day you spend outside. And the goal is to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. We were able to do that. A friend of ours did it at the same time. So it was amazing. Now that my kids are in a different stage of life, I am re-energized about revisiting this, because we love being outside, but we did stop making it a priority like we were doing that year of the challenge. And even if it means we're taking the time more on the weekends, and when we can, we're busy, like we talked about in this episode, we have decided to make this something that we prioritize and try to see if we can incorporate more of it. It's not about perfection for me, and trying to make sure I do everything the way that Jenny does it, because her lifestyle is different. Like, we're not a homeschooling family. She is. And there is so many things that we can do as a family to incorporate some of these things and really see the benefits, because there are so many benefits to what Ginny is talking about and is an advocate for. Not only did she teach us how the outdoors can help our children thrive in this episode, but we talked about self-structured play versus structured play, screen use, overscheduled kids, and just so much more. She's also read so many books. She mentioned and referenced so many books that sounded amazing. There were so many books that she referenced that I put them in the show notes because I'm like, I have to get a hold of these as well. But she really motivated me to start reading more. And ever since we spoke on the podcast, I have been trying to get some reading done every morning. And there's just so many books out there that are on this topic with our kids and just in other things that I want to read too. So she really motivated me because she reads a ton. And you can check out episode 44 in those show notes. Those are all the links directly to the book. So some of the ones that she mentioned that sounded amazing. You can check them out there. I also finished her book, and it's called Until the Streetlights Come On. It was so good. I highly recommend it. So make sure to check that out as well. Well, those are some of my most downloaded episodes, some of my favorites as well. And there are too many to mention all of my podcast episodes, but I've had so many incredible episodes and guests. I cannot tell you how grateful I am to be able to share these incredible stories and this information with you all. And I know it's so incredibly impactful to me, so I hope it is to you as well. And thank you to everyone who's listened, who's shared this online or with a friend, who's left a review for me. It means the world. This is truly a labor of love, something that I do on my own each and every week. There's so much that goes on to a podcast behind the scenes that it's just really time consuming, but it has been totally worth it. Also, a huge thank you to my husband who helps me edit each and every episode and cheers me on. And he listens after I get done with an interview. I run into the office and I'm like, oh my God, you're never going to believe how good this episode was. I get so jazzed and I just cannot wait to release it and to share it with all of you. So thank you to my husband. I have to say it is the most rewarding thing I have done in 2023 to be able to meet and connect with these amazing guests and then hear how it's been impacting my listeners. It's just been such a gift. I decided on the drive home from Arizona on New Year's Eve in 2022, I was like, I think I should start a wellness podcast. It came out of nowhere on the 10 freeway. And my husband was like, yeah, that makes sense. I just wanted to dive deeper into my personal wellness journey, which I'm still going through, and share what I'm doing along the way with my listeners and see what we can learn and how we can grow from it. Later that month, I had my first episode and I have not missed a week. So I just am excited because it's come so far and it's gone in directions that I had no idea it would. But I already have so many exciting episodes planned for 2024. I cannot wait for you to hear them. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so you don't miss anything. And please help us grow even more. If you haven't left a review for us yet, it really helps the show. And thank you so much in advance. I hope everyone has the best new year and that 2024 is filled with wellness, joy, and more play. That's on my list. I've learned so much this year from my guests, and we will keep doing so in 2024 as we continue to learn to glow together. So see you next year. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.